It's not so much about even the marketing, but also the agent and how motivated they are to sell it. And you can explain to her too. If she says, how many other homes have you sold? How long have you been doing this? Stuff like that. You could just be honest with her and be like, you know what? I'm not the most experienced agent. I have not sold the most homes in this area, but there's not going to be anyone who's more motivated than me to make this happen. This is a big listing. You say that. I mean, this is a big listing for me. It's a big opportunity for me. And I do not want to let you down. This is a huge reflection of what I can do as not only a person, but a real estate agent. I have a lot riding on this. And this is really what's going to help my career out in the long term. And I'm going to make sure I don't do anything to mess that up. I'm going to go above and beyond what any other agent is going to do just because this means so much to me. And I've said that to clients before, and it's the truth, and they love the realness of it. And they know that, sure, there are always going to be other agents who do more sales than you and who have more experience than you. So that's never a game that you can win unless you're like 80 years old and have been doing this since you're like 5. It's never a game that you can win. So you have to play to your strength. And if your strength is, this is your only listing, you're gonna give it 100% of your energy. You're gonna give it 100% of everything you have, and that you have a lot riding on it, and you've never been more motivated to sell a house before. That's it. I mean, there's no way they would turn that down. What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So as some of you know, when I hit 100,000 subscribers, I gave someone free real estate coaching for life. Eric was the winner of that. And shortly after we spoke, Eric ended up getting his first listing appointment as a real estate agent, and then just reached out to me asking if we can go over what he has prepared already and what I recommend to actually get the listing. And then I asked if he's cool if I record it for YouTube, and Eric was so kind to say, yes, I can record it. Because there's no sense in me doing this if it just benefits one person, if I could just record it and then the whole internet could see it and YouTube could see it. So thank Eric for allowing me to record this. We haven't spoken yet, so I'm gonna give him a call, see exactly how we got the listing. Hopefully you guys can benefit a lot from this, and then I'll give my thoughts of what you can do while you're in a listing to make sure you have the best chance at getting that listing. So let's call Eric.
Hey, Graham.
Well, what's up, dude? So first off, if you wouldn't mind starting from the very beginning, how you got the listing appointment, because I'm sure a lot of the people watching will just want to know how that even came up.
Yeah, so I was pretty much cold calling expireds, just like you told me, the way you were doing it in the video. Really, I wasn't paying attention to the price point. I just wanted to practice, go over the script. I pretty much made my own script just by watching YouTube videos. I called, asked a bunch of qualifying questions, told them what I could do to sell their home, and just like that, I got the appointment. And it was really by accident. I wasn't expecting it. I was so chill on the phone, but when I hung up, I kind of freaked out because I've never been to a listing appointment before.
That's exciting, dude. Congratulations. I'm telling you, and everyone else watching, cold calling expireds like you just did is a gold mine for anybody with even zero experience, never done it before. Expires is just like the best thing ever. And think of it this way, if you got it that quickly, imagine what is gonna happen when you start doing this every single day, and then you get more people in the pipeline, and then you get better at doing this, and then you start setting up like one of these a week, and then as you get more comfortable, you start setting up like 2 a week, and then all of a sudden you've built your entire business off of cold calling expired listings.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting it. It was pretty much luck, and to be honest with you, she pretty much set up the appointment for me. She closed.
She's the closer.
Yeah, what I'm doing, I'm just watching YouTube videos of listing presentations, trying to find out what to say, how to say it, what paperwork I need, because I've never been to one.
Yeah. So here's what I recommend. What do you have prepared right now? Let's start there.
Okay, so the only pieces I have prepared right now is pretty much the CR. Let me see here. So the only thing I have prepared right now is the CMA and the documents she has to sign for me to get to work. So
you have a listing agreement and then a comparative market analysis.
Yeah, I have for marketing and what I'm going to do to sell her home, I was going to explain it to her verbally just because I don't have any materials with me. I wasn't prepared for this at all.
Okay, so let's start right there. In the future, I would like to see something prepared. Now, I know it's hard to prepare something before you actually have a listing prior to that, so you don't really have any examples with your name on it, but just in the future, I recommend finding something similar to what you're going to be doing just to give as examples, whether it's going to be postcards, brochures, setup sheets, just really anything that you have. I recommend at least getting that prepared ahead of time. Right now, I mean, it's too late now, but just in the future, you're going to get many more listing appointments. So this is just going to be something that you're going to learn as you go along. And then one other thing I want to mention, that even with my help on this, and I'll give you my thoughts, and the thing that I've noticed is that you generally will end up messing up the first few times. Even though you know all the right information, you can have everything set up, it's just a matter of getting used to it and becoming more comfortable with it over time. So I don't want to say 100% because you're going to do a great job at this, but a lot of it's a learning experience that you're just going to get better with over time. You're going to be so much better the next time this happens, then the next time, the next. So by the 10th one, you're going to be a pro at this. So when it comes to this, all these little things like what's happening right now, just a little learning experience, and then you improve and you make sure it doesn't happen the next time.
Well, if I do close this deal, I'm planning to close it on confidence, just because, I don't have the, correct knowledge or the correct package prepared, but I'm pretty sure with the right confidence, I'll be, that's pretty much my only chance.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on that. So let's start at the very beginning. You're going to show up with those two. I like having the CMA available. I don't usually go right into that. Here's what I do. I'll give you my thoughts about what I do, and I don't use any sort of script or anything like that. I really kind of play it out by ear. But the first thing that I will do is, first of all, research the background of the home. You want to know everything about the home, how big it is, what the lot size is, if it were ever last listed, when they purchased it, and for how much, and also how much they owe on the home. Did you do that?
Yeah. I took the information from the previous listing just because it wasn't expired, and I do want to go over that with her just to confirm all the information is correct.
Okay. And do you know when she last bought the property and for how much?
I do not know.
Oh, that's so important. That's probably one of the most important things that you can do. You want to figure out if she just bought it a year ago, she bought it 10 years ago, 30 years ago, if it's paid off, how much, what type of loan did she take out when she bought it, all of these things.
So in terms of bringing anything else than what I just have, the paperwork, would you recommend me taking anything else?
Normally, I'd recommend taking samples of your marketing materials. What I would do is just bring samples of any brochures that I send out, any postcards I've sent out to neighbors when we launch a listing, any setup sheets that we do. I show them the quality of the materials that we use, a little bit about myself and some of the listings that I've sold. If you're just starting, just starting out, it's a little bit less important. I would like to see in the future you have some sort of samples of marketing materials, but again, at this point, it's better, I think, we just go in there with as much information as possible in terms of your knowledge on that property.
Right, and honestly, I wanted to do that, and I kind of, in the back of my head, I knew I was supposed to have those things, but like I said, I was cold calling just to practice. In no way did I imagine I would have actually a listing.
Hey, well, there you go. It's gonna happen. The more you practice with these expired listings, the more listings you're gonna end up getting.
I think I'm prepared. So I'll see how it goes.
So here's what I would do. I would go in and show up maybe like a few minutes early. I never like to show up too early. I absolutely never show up late. Show up maybe if your appointment's at 2 p.m., show up at 1:55 or something, just a little bit early. Ask the seller to give you a tour of the home. Always do this. Never get into the listing right away. You always want to build as much of a connection with the seller as possible. So I will always go in and say something like, would you mind giving me a tour on the home? And throughout the tour, honestly, just ask any questions you have. Ask what they've done to the home. Ask what upgrades they've done to the home. Ask little questions just about it. If you don't know what sort of material something is, just ask. And just get them talking about their house. And also get them talking about why they bought the house in the first place, and talk about why they're considering selling and where they're going to be going from there. Just any question to build personal connection. I would never go in straight to the sale. Very few people ever really want that. There are some people, by the way, that just want to sit down and be like, how much is my home worth? What can you do? That's a small minority of people from my experience. They really like to be warmed up. I think they just want to get to know you and see what you're about, and at the same time, it's important that you get familiar with the home. So,
yeah, no, I think rapport is like one of the most important things in real estate, because at the end of the day, they really have to trust you and your ability to sell the home, just because they don't know this business. So a lot of trust is pretty much a main factor to this. So building rapport is something I always do with any of my clients, buyers or sellers.
perfect. So that's how I usually like to start out. And then again, like I was saying, I've thrown questions like, why are you considering selling? Do you know why? Did you ask her?
She already has a house she's living in, so she just needs to sell this one.
Perfect. And do you know the reason why she ended up buying another house and wanted to sell this one?
No, I mean, honestly, I had the questions laid out in front of me that I got from just YouTube videos, but honestly, she really wanted to meet. Like, the whole conversation was about 8 to 9 minutes.
Perfect.
So I didn't really, as soon as she wanted to meet, I just skipped the whole script I had and set the appointment.
Cool. Okay. So once she gives you the tour of the home, I recommend sitting down, and that's where you can start to get into more of these specifics about it. And again, anytime you're in a listing, I really like to make it more about what they want than about what I necessarily offer and what I do and about me and my sales. I'll make it all about them. So in terms of this, a question I would like to ask, because my understanding is that this is expired, it was on the market, is finding out why they think it didn't sell and what they thought could have been done better. And basically, you can take all of these things that they say and just improve on it. They will basically tell you how to get the listing. They will tell you the reason we didn't sell is because we didn't have good pictures, or the reason we didn't sell was because we came on too high and then we lowered our price too much. But now it's a really good price, but by that time we had a stale listing. You know, the agent wasn't available to pick up their phone, or the agent wasn't showing it on weekends. They will tell you every single shortcoming of their listing in a way that basically just serves it to you on a platter, because you just do those things. You do whatever they feel like was lacking with the last agent. That's a huge one.
And actually, that question you just said, that's the few questions I did manage to ask them, is why do you think it hasn't sold? And they were complaining about the first complaint was the season. And I pretty much countered that with, well, other homes in the area actually sold. Second response, they were actually blaming the agent. They said he didn't do any open houses, he didn't market it well enough, and I pretty much told them my value and how I market the home, and that really excited them. And right after that, they pushed for the appointment.
Perfect. Anytime they say seasonality, unless you're listing it like the week before Christmas, homes sell year round.
Doesn't matter. Right.
It really doesn't matter. Seasonality is just a thing, is really an excuse for, maybe this is why we didn't sell. It's never a reason for not selling. That's my thought. In terms of price, where do you think they were priced at? Because you did the market analysis on the property, and like I mentioned to everybody watching, I mean, you should be very familiar with every home that comes on the market. If you're farming an area, if you're looking at expireds, you should know everything else that's on the market, and you should have a basic understanding of what it's worth. What is your thought on the home's value from when it was listed?
Yeah, so my value, what I saw from the CMA, it's overpriced by about $30,000. It was listed at $625. They lowered it to $610, where they should have placed it at $599 to begin with, because it's worth $600,000. So they overpriced it in our market, where every other home is listed undervalued to create competition. So the previous listing agent really ruined the whole sale by overpricing it and pretty much leading buyers away from the home, and it didn't get it. I don't think it got a single offer.
Crazy. Okay. So here's where I would stand in terms of price. I never like going in and just saying to them, this is what I think it's worth and this is what I would like to price it at. Usually what I will do is ask where they want to price it, and I'll see where they're at first. If they say no, you say a number first, I usually counter back with, I'd like to hear where you're at. I'm not going to change my number whatsoever, but I'd like to hear where you're at first. And most of the time, they'll tell you what they think it's worth and where they want to price it. Because you don't want to offend them. I mean, let's say the property is worth, $599, but they're just like, we want $699. At that point, you know to ease into it a little bit more than just saying it's worth $599 and then killing it altogether. you just want to be a little bit more delicate. The further you are away and from price, from your opinion to theirs, just be a little bit more careful about what you say. And just really ease into it in a way that's easy for them to understand. So that way it's just not like these polar opposite views, that you really know to rationalize why you came up with this number, show them the comps first, and then ease into it. It sounds like if they're at like a 610, it really does sound like anything with a 5 in front of it would be a little bit more enticing. So once you ask them, let's say they do say it's worth like 610, or let's say they say it's worth 600. Say something like, if this is the truth, which it sounds like it is, say that was exactly what I was thinking. And it's important that we go in at a price that entices buyers, that gets buyers willing to write. And oftentimes, I never like pricing something within like a round number. So if you're gonna price it like 610, it's almost always better to come in at 599. There's like no point for like 605, 610. Those just seem like way higher numbers than just at 599. Same thing like with anything. Like I've seen some priced at like $1,025,000. And I'm like, why would you price $1,025,000 when you could price it $999, which is psychologically so much better than every other listing out there, and just sounds better, and you're gonna get more activity. And just the more activity alone will generally drive the price up higher than if you just ask a stupid number to begin with, like $1,025,000 or something like that. So I always recommend coming in, whatever number it's worth, come in just a few grand below that. And that really ends up getting the most activity. Like I had another listing, by the way. Here's just to give you an example. I had this priced, the house was worth $2 million. Like day and night, the house was worth $2 million. The seller wanted to ask, I think it was 2-1, because it was worth 2. They figured, okay, 2-1, and we'll be able to negotiate down. And a lot of sellers say this, I don't want to price my properties what it's worth because we've got to have some room for negotiating. And I explained to them the downsides of that and how that would greatly limit the activity that we get, and we're going to end up negotiating anyway. So I explained it's better to come in at a really competitive price, and instead of coming in at what it was worth at 2, we came in just under that at like 1,975. We ended up getting so much activity that we ended up getting on that home 2,150. We got more. We got 150 grand more than what the home is worth because we underpriced it. We created a ton of activity. We had hundreds of people in that open house, and we ended up selling it within the first few days. So it's those pricing strategies that really end up benefiting the sellers more. And you could explain to her all of this. If she wants to come in at a higher price to leave room to negotiate, you can tell her realistically what's going to end up happening is that it's not going to be a very desirable listing, and we're going to lose a lot of the leverage. And the truth is, the first few weeks of a listing are the most impactful, and that's your chance to get the highest price possible. So always within the few weeks. After a few weeks, let's call it 30 days. After about 30 days, the seller generally loses all of their leverage.
Honestly, it can sell for that 610 she wanted, but because she overpriced it, if somebody's looking at 600K maximum, they're not going to see that home.
Cool. Then I like that. Then I think I think 599 or 575. The thing is this: you don't want to tell her 575. And for her to get offended by it. And the whole point of the 575 is to get a higher price, but you just have to be very confident that the home is worth the 600 and that you're not going to price it at 575 and then it just sits there. And the one thing I always tell sellers is this. Sometimes sellers are worried about underpricing something, and my thought, and from my experience, is always this. It's always a home will generally sell for what it's worth, pending you do what you can as an agent in terms of marketing and showings. The home is generally, assuming you do all of those things correctly, is going to sell what it's worth. The market always speaks for itself. Again, unless you kill the listing by really bad pictures, not picking up your phone, you make it impossible for people to see it and write offers, or there's something impending on the property like a really bad tenant or the seller just not wanting to show it, or besides anything like that, a property will sell for market value provided you give it the exposure it needs.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the home is vacant. It's also empty. So actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was about staging.
Yes.
Do you recommend it, and who pays for it?
I always recommend staging. Generally speaking, the seller is going to be paying for staging. Generally speaking. Sometimes they might want to split it with you. And here, this is usually something where I'll say, depending on the listing and the client, I usually ask this, in most situations, the seller will pay for staging. And I'll say, if you pay I don't know, we'll call it $6,000 for staging, you're generally going to recoup this cost because buyers are going to end up paying more and offering faster than a vacant house. A home just always looks better staged. Some buyers, even the best buyers, just don't have the imagination to see a home that's empty. They just can't vision themselves in the home. I would say that's a lot of buyers. They just don't have the imagination to figure out what goes where and to really imagine living in an empty house. I always recommend staging. What I like to do is, if you can, get them quotes for stagers. If you don't know any stagers, ask a few people in your office who you recommend and say, this is something I would like to set up for you. I don't know exactly how much it's going to cost, but what I would like to do is recommend that you stage this property. And what I can do is I'll set you up, or I'll give you a few recommendations for stagers. I can meet them here. I can get you some bids, and you could decide at that time if it's something you want to do. And I highly recommend you do it because I think it's one of the best ROIs that you can get on this listing. Sometimes you can agree, listen, I'll pay for half of it. If that's something you want to do, I don't recommend just offering that from the very beginning. If it's something you want, again, go for it. Sometimes I've seen it that you pay up front and that you get recompensated back when the home sells. You can work out a lot of these little things with the seller. I generally recommend, though, the seller pay for it. So that's my recommendation when it comes to staging. And one other thing that you can do that I forgot to mention in the very beginning, when they're giving a tour throughout the home, if you see any upgrades that you think they should do, recommend them. So one of the things I often see, especially with a vacant home, the walls just might be like really scuffy or dirty. I explain to them that, listen, if you spend a few grand in painting, it's gonna look so much better than if you have a wall that's like scuffed up, or walls that are like really weird colors. Like, especially if you get the kids' bedrooms. It's always the kids' bedrooms that are like neon green and pink and blue. I always recommend the seller paint these rooms. Sometimes little things like that will make a big difference. Also, landscape clearance. Sometimes they have like overgrown bushes and trees and grass and things like this. I always recommend, listen, just pay a gardener a few $100, clean all of this up. It's gonna really help our listing out. Things like this really do make a huge difference. Sometimes it's impossible for me to go through and just like name everything off over the phone, because a lot of it just, you notice it in person, and it gets easier too when you've done your own renovations. If it was like, oh, you should do this, or you should replace that fixture, and like this, how much it's gonna cost. So it's hard for me to think of anything. Pressure's on here. Pressure's on. I'm gonna make a follow-up video on this. So I'm gonna share it with everyone on YouTube that you got this listing, because I want you to get this listing now. So you have to get this listing. There's no excuse not to get this listing. And I'm going to put you on the spot because now you have no choice but to get this listing.
Oh, man. Okay, man.
You got to get it.
I'll get it.
I'm going to say probably 5,000 to 15,000 people are probably going to see this, and you got to get the listing. You have all the subscribers. Comment down below and wish them luck in getting this listing. So now you're going to have all of these people commenting, good luck. Better get this listing then.
What? Okay. Didn't you say I would fail my first time?
I never said you're going to fail the first time. I said you're going to get better as you do this over time. You're going to fuck some stuff up. It's part of the learning process, but now I want to make sure you get this listing because it's a cool house. I don't know. I imagine 600 grand in LA, and I'm like, whatever. But this looks pretty amazing.
Well, I'll try my best not to let you down, not to let the subs down, and I'll get it.
If this video can get 1,000 likes, he's going to get the listing. So make sure to smash that like button as well.
2,000 likes. I need 2,000.
2,000 likes, and also Kevin gets to fix his drone if we hit 2,000 likes.
The appointment I have is at 2 p.m., which is in like 2 hours. So I have to go put on my suit, get ready, and wish me luck. Okay, and then you need to be doing open houses on this every Sunday. Explain the importance of doing that. Explain the importance of pricing it right from the very beginning. Explain the importance of getting really good pictures. On something like this, the pictures they did are nice. I would do two things. Say you're not only going to do daytime photography, but evening photography. It's just going to set a different vibe. Because the front of the house in the daytime looks good, promise, if this same picture were at sunset, it would look 20% better. So you're going to do daytime and evening photography. I also recommend that you tell her do open houses every single Sunday. And I also recommend for both you and the listing that you send out postcards to all the nearby homes. I don't care if it's a few hundred homes. Get a list from the title company of the nearby few hundred homes, maybe in a quarter mile or
maybe half a mile or mile radius. I don't know how many homes are around here. Get a few hundred homes, send an invitation to the first open house to every single one of the neighbors. It's going to cost you a few $100. It's not only marketing for the house, but it's marketing for you as well as a real estate agent. Do both of that and tell her you're doing that. Very few other agents will do that. It's going to set you apart, and it's just amazing for not only you, but the home.
Right. Actually, to be honest with you, I know you told me that before, and I was going to say that. And you know that recent Snapchat you posted about you showed all the envelopes and you said you got $1.3 million listing?
Yeah, 1.6.
I don't know how professional it's going to look, but I was planning on showing her that if it felt right.
Yeah, I mean, just here's the thing. I would just tell her that's what you're going to be doing, and make some postcards and make them as high quality as you can, because this is just a reflection of you and what you offer. So I would just go all out with this one. And it's good marketing. All the neighbors are going to know about you now. They're going to know about the listing. You sell this listing, it pays for itself, and you got marketing from it. Do that. It's not so much about even the marketing, but also the agent and how motivated they are to sell it. And you can explain to her too. If she says, how many other homes have you sold? How long have you been doing this? Stuff like that. You could just be honest with her and be like, you know what? I'm not the most experienced agent. I have not sold the most homes in this area, but there's not going to be anyone who's more motivated than me to make this happen. This is a big listing. You say that. I mean, this is a big listing for me. It's a big opportunity for me. And I do not want to let you down. This is a huge reflection of what I can do as not only a person, but a real estate agent. I have a lot riding on this. And this is really what's going to help my career out in the long term. And I'm going to make sure I don't do anything to mess that up. I'm going to go above and beyond what any other agent is going to do, just because this means so much to me. And I've said that to clients before, and it's the truth, and they love the realness of it. And they know that, sure, there are always going to be other agents who do more sales than you and who have more experience than you. So that's never a game that you can win unless you're like 80 years old and have been doing this since you're like 5. It's never a game that you can win. So you have to play to your strength. And if your strength is, this is your only listing, you're going to give it 100% of your energy. You're going to give it 100% of everything you have, and that you have a lot riding on it, and you've never been more motivated to sell a house before. That's it. I mean, there's no way they would turn that down. I wouldn't necessarily, if they don't bring it up, I wouldn't say, there have been more experienced agents, blah, 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 blah. I would just go into, I'm the most motivated. This means a lot to me. I want to do my best to prove myself. This is an area I want to break into. This would be a big opportunity for me. Stuff like that.
Okay, I'm not going to bring it up unless she asks me.
Fair enough.
Just because, I don't want to say like, hey, I'm inexperienced or anything. I don't want to like put any doubt in her mind unless it actually goes there.
Perfect.
I think that'd be the best route.
Cool. Well, if it goes there, you know what to say. When it comes to actually then closing the deal, what I usually like to say is something like, well, I'm ready when you are. I can have this, photographed next week. I can bring him some stagers, this weekend, stuff like that. But in order to do that, I'll need the listing signed. And then you go over the listing contract that you have printed out. You better get this listing. There's a lot riding on this, and I want to see you get this listing. Really.
Okay, I won't let you down.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. All right, you guys, he better get this. I really want him to get it. Because now I feel like I'm personally responsible for him getting this listing, and if he doesn't get it, I don't know. I feel like now that's on me too. So fingers crossed he gets it. I hope this video is helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed this totally last minute video. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, feel free to add me on Snapchat and Instagram. Posts are pretty much daily. Feel free to add me there. And then also, I hate being this guy, and I'm not like the salesy dude who's always just like pitching stuff, but I just do want to mention, if you're interested, I do have a course that covers all of these topics and like 100 other topics about becoming a real estate agent, getting leads, calling expired listings, getting listings like this, going through the listing appointment, everything. The link is in the description. It's called the Real Estate Agent Academy. It covers a ton of topics. Basically everything I know of being a real estate agent and almost now 10 years in the business, condensed into 8 hours straight of content. If you guys are interested in that, the link is in the description. If you're not, that's cool too. I'm still making a ton of just videos on here, and nothing is changing. But anyway, if you're interested in that, the link is in the description. Thank you again for watching, and until next time.